Hello, my name is Joe, and this is my story from a couple years back when I used to hitchhike. I don't usually tell people this story, but I figured it could help some people if they wanted to hitchhike. It was a cold night, and I hitchhiked in Canada on a so-called Highway of Tears. A known highway no hikers dare to step foot on. But I never seemed to have problems hiking there since I did it a few times. That's until one night that was about to change. I decided to walk from Telqua to Smithers in BC, Canada. I'm originally from Telqua, and it's a small community, and I have a few friends in Smithers. They always tell me I'm crazy to hitchhike when I could just take the Greyhound. And sometimes I do take it, but for some reason I just wanted to hitchhike on foot. I decided to bring my backpack with me, a tent, some food, and like I said before, my bike. And I thought I could challenge myself and just go on foot for once. Well, technically not on foot since I'm using my bike, but you get the point. So as I'm biking, it's starting to get dark out and my legs are just getting tired. I get a bit hungry, so I go into a dirt path off the highway and walk around a wood area. It looked pretty isolated and it was pretty quiet. But I decided to put my tent in an area close to the dirt path just so I don't lose track of where I am. So I put up my tent and did the whole camping thing. I climbed in my tent and ate the snacks I brought with me. And a few minutes later my eyes started to get heavy and I started to drift off to sleep. Moments later I wake up to a strange noise outside my tent. Startled, not sure what to think or say, I shrugged it off thinking it was an animal or something. I lay back down, but as soon as I lay on my side, I heard it again. I got up and I got a bit nervous, thinking, who the hell is out here at this time? And that reminded me to check the time. It was 3 a.m. in the morning and I found out to be strange. Could it be a person outside walking around, or was it an animal? If it was a person, then why would anyone be out here? Were they hitchhiking just like me and came across my camp by accident? So many questions pop into my head. I decided to ask and say out loud, "Hello? Is anyone out there?" Complete silence. I built up the courage and decided to go outside my tent. I look around and see no one. Then I hear someone running, but it sounds like they're running away from where I was. I get out and close my tent behind me. Decide to investigate, thinking it was someone pulling a prank on me. I walked towards the direction where I heard the running footsteps, and it was leading back to the dirt path where I was on. By the time I got to the dirt path, I heard someone laugh. I stayed still for a moment and hid behind a tree, wondering who was laughing at this time. I moved from behind the tree and moved forward, and to my surprise I saw something I wasn't expecting. I saw a man dressed in a random costume. Well, it kind of looked like a costume, but it really wasn't. He was wearing a clown shirt and it was all muddy. He was wearing blue casual jeans and had black long hair. He was wearing a clown mask, so I couldn't see his face. He was standing in the middle of the road facing towards the highway. He didn't look at me or know I was there. I don't think he even noticed me at all. I asked him, "What are you doing?" why are you out here by yourself? And then I said in a nervous tone. He didn't answer. He just stood there staring ahead. So I decided to look in his direction, and I didn't see anything besides the highway ahead. I looked back and I saw him staring right at me. This horrified me because I was not expecting that. I stayed still and tried not to react. He just stood there without saying anything. Just looked at me. I asked in a frightful tone, is there anything wrong, sir? Then he blinks and smiles. He nodded and said, they're coming. I was confused by this and I didn't know what he meant. Who was coming, I thought. Then moments later I hear a vehicle pulling up from the dark path. I look back and the clown was gone. Nowhere to be seen. The car pulls up and one of the passengers rolls down his window. It was a man that looked to be in his early 20s, roughly the same age as me. He had brown hair, he wore a hoodie, and he had this cold, expressionless look on his face. He says, "What are you doing out here, man?" I'm startled and I don't know what to say. "Oh, just camping with my friends, that's all." Even though I was by myself and I didn't want him thinking I was alone. He looks behind me and says, "Where are they then?" I tell him they're back at camp and we were just having a few beers. I said I was just taking a piss down here. He looks at me with the same cold expression. I hear his friends talking in the back, whispering. He rolls down his window to talk to them. It was quiet for a moment, and I really wanted to leave, but I couldn't. I was just frozen. The man rolls down his window. He asks, "Hey, you want to come with us?" Not the question I was expecting. But it was weird because I told him I was with my friends, but he just kind of ignored that. I kindly said, "No, I'm with my friends. I gotta get back." He interrupts me. "They can wait. Just come with us." I could feel my cold sweat in my body, getting a bit nervous. "No, I'm good. I gotta get back, I'm sorry." Trying to leave the weird conversation. He pulls out a knife and says in an aggressive tone, "Get in the car, asshole." At that moment, I booked it without thinking. I could hear the guys yelling in the car, and the car's doors being opened as I leave. I run and run in the wooded area in the forest, and I could hear them behind me yelling, "Get back here!" And I keep running. I never felt this kind of fear before. This animal fear. It felt like I was gonna die if I stopped. My heart was pumping out of my chest, and I could still hear them yelling at a distance. Luckily, I stumbled upon a house up ahead, and it looked like a remote house with a few lights on ahead. I was so relieved. So I ran my hardest, but I was running out of breath, and I slowed down to catch my breath. I could hear the man catching up on me, and I tried to run quietly as I can and calm myself down. As I get close to the house, I could hear them catching up to me, and one of them actually eventually does. He stops me in my tracks and he says, "There you are." I look behind me and it's the same guy from the car, and there's 3 other guys behind him huffing and puffing. One of them pulled out a gun and demanded me to stay still. I froze in fear, not knowing what to say. I kept thinking, is this it? This can't be. Is this where I die? Then I hear a dog barking. And a voice. "What are you doing in my yard?" The guys from the car all ran away, and I run towards the man In desperation, he says, "Who are you?" In a confused tone. I tell him my situation and that those men were trying to chase me down. I told him that he saved my life, and if it wasn't for him, I could have been killed. The man manages to calm down and comfort me, and he decides to call the police. The police showed up and took me to Smithers to my friend's house. I told them what happened, and they told me to wait. The next day, the cops told me they couldn't find the suspects. I was pretty bummed out by that, since it was the scariest night of my life. Fast forward a year later, and one of my friends texted me that took me off guard. He sent me a news article saying the police caught 4 men who were responsible for 3 murders, one involving a teenage girl, and one of the men turned out to be one of the guys at the car. The body was found near the area where I camped, and that freaked me out. And I was stunned. And I was thinking, did he think I found the body of that girl? And I assumed I knew too much? Were they going to kill me to cover their tracks? There's so many questions going through my head. Another thing that confused me was that random clown. Who was he? Was he one of the victims, or simply a ghost warning me? Whoever it was, it did give off a creepy feeling that something was coming, and it prepared me for the worst. To this day, I never went hiking again. I always get a ride from a friend or take the bus.